talk about other ensembles that have been put together, again, another project that's going to be huge for the market. I think we've been discussing James Gray's upcoming 8th feature on a couple of episodes. We were quite enthusiastic about Cate Blanchett being the first to join what we perceive to be a film about the upbringing of Donald Trump, which might not necessarily be the case as the latest news headline and Deadline sort of like fleshed out what the cast might look like, but also gave an opportunity to James Gray to delve into just how close this project is to him. So yeah, let's talk about this exciting cast and what it means for James Gray to sort of like perhaps go down a road that's a lot closer to his own experiences.
So James Gray has been putting together Armageddon Time for a little while now. A lot of the coverage has been about the Trump connection, but I believe James Gray has said, like in previous interviews, that element of it is not really the focus. Like it's part of that world certainly, but it's not about Donald Trump. Donald Trump's father does play a role in the film, not the actual person, but the character. But it sounds to me more like a coming of age story. And the cast, again, like this would be running neck and neck with Alpha Gang for an Oscar if there was a casting Oscar. I mean, we have Robert De Niro, Oscar Isaac, Donald Sutherland returning to work with James Gray after Ad Astra, Anne Hathaway joining Cate Blanchett. So huge cast, and it's a film set in the 80s. It's it's about two kids who aged 11 and 12 making their way through a world of privilege, and how that affects one character who, from what I understand, like adjusts better to the scenario, and the other who sort of goes down a path that's maybe not quite so certain. But James Gray his films have a connective thread of really focusing on outsiders and understanding people who have maybe fallen through the cracks a bit, who have been outside of the system, who have to sort of struggle to be recognized. Mm-hmm. So I think it's following on a thread that he's carried throughout his films. But obviously this is drawing on his own experience. I mean, he went to school in New York. He went to I believe he went to a private school. So this is something that's going to be, I mean, all of his films have been touched with personal elements, but this sounds like his most personal to date.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting a sense that a lot of the actors that you just named are going to be strong, part of the strong supporting cast. But it really does appear as if our vantage point is going to be from a person who's 10, 11, 12 years old. And I think that's something that's fairly new to the filmmaker. So whoever gets cast as the kid who was part of the privileged system and who got a chance at redeeming themselves and saw how unfair a system could be. It's going to come from a really interesting perspective, and ultimately a lot of the chance encounters and mistakes that we sort of have to go through as a child, I think plays out later in life. And I think James Gray perhaps saw just how fortunate he was in sort of getting a pass, I guess, depending on where he goes with this character. But I think it's going to be a really personal project and say a lot about the institutions that can make or break a human life at a very young age.
That's very well said. I mean, as we're talking about this, I can't help but think of We Own the Night and Joaquin Phoenix and Mark Wahlberg's characters, how there's you know, their paths were so different, and I feel like, you know, maybe this film is sort of not connected, but obviously, but you know, maybe it's from the perspective of, you know, what were those characters like, like what were those characters like as kids, like what were the paths that, as you say, started them down the roads they ended up taking. So really rich material from James Gray here.
Hi, I'm Eric Lavallée. I'm editor-in-chief and site owner for IONCINEMA.com, and this is
Kevin Jagernauth, contributing writer for the playlist.
And together we are IndieSponge.